center! Quick! March!
We got the pipes happening. Oh! I'm not going to play over them. Ooh! Hello everyone, how are you today? This is Remembrance Day. I'm recording this. Welcome to Melbourne Musos Facebook Live on Remembrance Day, the 11th of November 2022. And as is my tradition, I always do a kind of a rudimental show on important days like this. And I'll take you through a few things, but I always try and find an angle. Okay? Like Danny Kaye in White Christmas. Gotta get an angle. I don't think Doris the drum kit should be on a flatbed truck if I took her out on a march, but that's basically what's going on. So we're very snare drumming. So I'm going to do a couple of things today. I'm going to talk about rudiments and stuff. Now, one of the things is, of course, I started with... Off they go. Beautiful. Oh, sorry about that. And I'll take that out. I tapped it twice. Oh, Sergeant Major would be happy with that. Anyway, there you go. But what it is you've got your 2-3s taking off. But when we're doing things like that, which is Scotland the Brave, and you're in a pipe band, what goes on is the tempo is generally slower than the general marching band of 120 beats per minute, which I'm used to from the dear City of Essendon Brass Band all those years. We'd be busy today. Oof. So it'll be... Ooh, you get the sack for that. Drummer! What do you think you're doing? I used to get, drummer, close those rolls. Now, that's what I'm going to explain. Rudiments. When you're dealing with, beginning with your beautiful snare drum rudiments, the rudiments themselves were put together over a course of many centuries, funnily enough. And then in the early 20th century, 1932 in fact, the National American Rudimental Drummers, led by William F. Ludwig of the famous drum company, put together, I'm going to read about it in just a second, but basically, cut a long story short, they ratified them, sort of thing, because there was styles in Europe and the English rudiments and the Scottish rudiments and all sorts of things, and everything was a little bit different, so they ratified it, so to speak. Started off with 13, ended up becoming 26. They dissolved in the 60s, and then it got taken on by PAS, the Percussive Arts Society. And Jay Wanamaker, the very famous drummer there, he's he all the lights shone on him in the 1984 Los Angeles Games, I think, you know, doing his... all the business stuff like that. And he was I think it's the chairman, or at least the leader of the group. that ratified it out, took the 26, added 14, and that's the poster up on the wall there, the 40 pass rudiments, and there you have it. And the rudiments themselves are split up into sections, you see, but I'm going to do it just ever so slightly differently as far as for anyone who wants to really get into them. And I'll treat it like a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, because if you sort of, here's your 40 rudiments, you'll be there forever, and all that, you've got to get into it bit by bit. Now, what I do with my books, and what I did for the syllabus that I wrote all those years ago, was the first one is just the straight stroke. So you've got your, don't worry, I've got a little bit of triggers. I'm triggering today a little bit with some rudimental kind of sounds, because with snare drums you've got little ones, all types of depth, a bit more deeper. You've got marching snares, you've got some of the old snares, oh they're big, and all this stuff. So what I'm trying to do is give you so on. So let me cut to the chase again. Straight stroke. So you got a single stroke roll, double stroke roll, and of course you have the paradiddle. Right, left, right, left, right, left, left, and so on it goes. Now, along with your 3 basic rudiments that you want to really get onto and get your speed up, simply for survival, you know, that kind of thing, there's also 3 main taps. You've got your single tap, a double tap, made up of a tap and a rebound, then you have a press. Or as the Americans like to call it, the multiple bounce, but press or buzz, and then you put it all together. So there's your single, double, and a press. Dame Evelyn Glennie, the very famous Scottish percussionist, has a wonderful thing on YouTube, the 30-minute press roll, and she just stands there and plays the press roll. Oh, it's beautiful, I tell you. It's a work of art. Just sit there. Listen. Listen to it. 30 minutes standing on. Let it listen. The timpani there. So that's what goes on. Now what happens is that when you're dealing with these straight strokes, what happens then is you can divide them into certain things. Now, generally speaking, there's the word rough, R-U-F-F. It gets a bit confusing, but I was, the old H put me through Buddy Rich's interpretation of the 26 standard rudiments and all that book that thick, and I plough through it. And essentially, roughs are anything done with single stroke. So if you've got a 5-stroke rough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you have a 5-stroke roll, it's with double stroke. So you get right, right, left, left, right, you see. Left, left, right, right, left. So roll. There you are. And roughs and rolls is what you have. Then you have a little thing called open rolls and closed rolls. I'm going very quickly here. It's not meant to be a whole semester of snare drumming all packed away in 25 minutes or so. This is just a teaser just to get you started. You know, go to a reputable teacher and say, I want to learn the rudiments, man. And that's what happens. And he say, come on in, son. There you go. So what happens is when you're doing this kind of business, when you've got the open and closed rolls, open rolls are when you're playing double strokes, right? So on it goes. But then if you have to close them, if you're playing the same kind of piece, what I used to do was if we were doing the march for either Anzac Day or Remembrance Day, and we're marching down, marching wherever, because we were at City of Essendon, we used to have duties to do. We were funded by the local council, so we had our rehearsal. I mean, in return, we had to do all the proper ceremonies, right? We have to be there, sparrow cackle, and all sorts of things, get on the bus, do all the different things, or whatever it is, if we're travelling somewhere. represented and all that, and be there at Queen's Park, across the road from the council offices there, and I'd be there today. And if I was still doing it, I'd still be doing it if I didn't have this, you see, because what happened, I'm a permanent afternoon shift worker. I start when the poppers come home from school. But what would happen if I was outside marching, I'd be double tapping, but if we were playing the same piece inside, close those rolls, drummer. Presses. So you've got a 5-stroke rough, 5-stroke roll, and then a 5-stroke closed roll. What happens when you start with a press roll? The idea of it is to get your multiple bounce. Just say, and that sounds lumpy when you start. That's okay, it's meant to be. Then as you build it up, the lumps go away. I mentioned lumpy gravy last week, but Frank Zappa, there he goes, like that. Get all the lumps out, mate. And don't do a scratch roll where you're sitting there going, or anything like that. That's non-productive. It's the technical term for that is shithouse. But what happens is a press roll is sort of opposite to how we know, how fast can you go, all that, because the idea of a press roll is a good press roll is when you're really not doing that much with it. Like there, I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, or if you like, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And a press roll is dependent on the notes around it. So if you're doing quavers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and double, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You're doing triplets, or you don't really do triplet. I'll explain it. You've got 2 main kinds of time signatures. I've said this many times on the show. In marching, you've got 2 feet, so therefore you've got 2 duple time. You've got 2-4, and you've got 6-8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can think of it like triplets if you want 1-ender, 2-ender, but it's not. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you're going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, double, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, press, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The timpani again. And there you go. Now, measured rolls. This is what we're talking about. And I'm going to move fairly quickly because I still want to do a little bit of history and all sorts of things. But when you're dealing with a marching band, like a brass band, you've got the 120, right? So on it goes like that. But when you're doing, turn it up. That ain't 120. That's actually a very proud 90 beats per minute. Is that one? I measured it before. And what happens is that when you actually do your research, what actually goes on is that Scotland the Brave and pipers, they have to get their bagpipes rolling, that kind of thing. You can hear the wind-up. Have a listen to this bit. Hang on, I'll just do this very quickly, and I do it with utmost respect too. I love this stuff. Ooh!
Bass, pipes and drums! By the center!
2, 3.
Quick! Hot!
Yeah. bang. Oh, beautiful. There you go. And that's what happens there. Could you hear the wind up? And away you go with that. So what happens is that there's your step off, like 2 3s. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you're off. Now, when you're in a pipe band, what happens is that when you do the research, Scotland the Brave is sort of seen as, like, well, it says in the book 102 beats per minute. Bloody hell, that's a bit fast for the song and the pipes. You see, so what happens is that when you're actually seeing things like press rolls and you see it written on, well, I've got the poster up there, and you see it written on the poster, you might have a 9-stroke roll for a crotchet. So it'll be 9 strokes, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So you'd have that. Now, if you're trying to do that at a slower tempo, you see what happens is that the rudiments themselves, they sit nicely at 120 beats per minute. Now, I've done a whole show on 120 beats per minute. It's pretty much one of the most important beats you can have. Even when I'm doing echo and different things on my laptop here for patches and all sorts of things. Today I'm trying to be rudimental, so I'm trying to get more of an aged snare drum, that, with the little psh, well, it's business anyway. See, there's a little bit more depth to it. And what happens is that when you're doing things like that, at 120 beats per minute, it's a default. At what I wanted to say with the computer, you just say new file, bang, it's on 120. It's half a second, 60 seconds to a minute. I could look at my clock up there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you see? So essentially it's a half a second. I'll keep that going. Now if I'm going to do a 9-stroke roll, that's fine, no worries at all. But if I'm going to do it at a slower clip for Scotland the Brave or in a pipe band, and I do a 9-stroke roll, I got yelled at once. We were doing, like any band, when you're rehearsing stuff, might have some fast bits or a complicated passage. Take it slower, build it up to the tempo. I was doing the same thing. Drummer, close those rolls. So what happens is sometimes what you see on the page isn't what happens in reality, you see. So sometimes what you're going to have to do is turn a 9-stroke roll into a 13-stroke roll. Or something like that. All sorts of things, you see. And if you want to finish on alternate hands, like, you might have to do a quintuplet. I sometimes get asked by colleagues, with George Lawrence Stone and stick control, how come he did quintuplets and septuplets at the end? The Gina Lollobrigidas and hippopotamus eyes, that kind of thing. And it's because it's hand to hand. If it's a slower tempo, there it is. It's a bit of musical detective work, brothers and sisters. Now, when we're doing that, I'm still talking about like getting started, but when you start to get into that, of course you've got your flams. Flam. Did you know that there were 3 kinds of flams? You have an appoggiatura, which is wide. We know what best is. Oh. Love the tambourine, Chris. Buddy, you're a boy. I was taught them in the 70s as, they're African flams. And then I went and saw Ossie Bissa. Who remembers Ossie Bissa? The African prog rock band. They were fantastic at Festival Hall. And, the big sound. Oh, my Lord. A bit like Japanese taiko or something like that. And then you have, as you get quicker, The flam, the grace note with the main tap, they get closer, and then you call them acchiaccatura. I love saying it like that, but I think it's, someone can tell me how it's pronounced. Acchiaccatura. It's Italian. There you go. And they're close, and that's more the rudimental. There it is there. And then you have flat flams. That doesn't work too well on one drum because it phases. It's the trampoline effect, you know, they start going lumpy. But if you put them on two different drums, they're fine, flat. That kind of thing. Since when am I going into rock and roll during a rudimental day? Anyway, there you go. Then what you have is a drag where you've got a double tap before the main tap. So a flam is a single tap before the main tap. Like that. Like so. Drag is a double. So when you're playing, swung march there. Bit Glenn Millerish, he did that. He was sort of taking some of the marching songs of the American Army during World War II, started to put swing in them, and all of a sudden everyone was going, that's terrific. Glenn Miller. And then, of course, there's the mnemonics of it. If you can say it, you can play it. So if I say, can you roll your R? Without being sleazy, but Ratamacue, rat. Can you say Ratamacue? Ratamacue, Ratamacue, a Ratamacue, a rat, a Ratamacue. There it is there. And then as you go through it, and you go through the 40 pass rudiments for which you get posters of, you start to go down the track of a little bit of history. And that's essentially what you're doing is a combination of all those things. You get your straight strokes, then you add flams to them, and then you get and measure them, and then you drag them, and then you're away, and then they're all put together, and that's what you have. And it started with nard. That's the initials, nard. Sounds like a cream. I have a tube of nard, thanks. Wasn't it? Was that Nair? That's it. Get the hair, you know. Anyway, cream stuff. Nard. And here we go. Oi! National Association of Rudimental Drummers. June 20, 1932. There you go. Dissolved. Did I say the 60s? I meant the 70s. December 31, 1977. Ooh. And it's still active, it says. History. The National Association of Rudimental Drummers was formed at the American Legion National Convention of 1932. According to the official NARD website, it is the purpose, aim, and object of the NARD to standardize drum rudiments and to encourage their adoption by all earnest students of drums. Hello, Ernie. My name is Ernest, thank you very much. There you go. Also, to dispel the erroneous idea that the rudiments are only for the drum corps drummer. The founding members of NARD include William F. Ludwig, Sr., George Lawrence Stone, the aforementioned author of Stick Control, one of the great snare drum books. Brilliant stuff. Harry Thompson, George A. Robertson, William A. Flowers, Heine Gerlach, W.W. Kiefer, J. Burns Moore, he's quite famous, W.F. Hammond, Joe A. Hathaway, Billy Miller, Edward B. Strait, and Roy C. Knapp. These original 13 members decided upon the 13 essential rudiments published in 1933 for American drumming. In their first meeting, potential members of NARD are expected to play the 13 essential rudiments in front of an existing NARD member in order to join the organization. Audition stuff. William F. Ludwig said of that first meeting, "We talked and played the rudiments 6 hours, well into the morning. Room full of drummers. I wonder if the cops turned up with a noise complaint." Nad. There you go. That's that little bit of history there. Oh, many of the founders had studied with Civil War veterans and felt that traditional rudimental drumming was becoming endangered. That's a little bit of a story of Sanford Moeller. Sanford Moeller's techniques have come back a bit in the funniest of places for metal music, because he had the whip stroke. Vipping. So, like that. He's quite famous for the whip stroke, and what that was about was playing quite powerfully, but with the vipping, the vip. And what goes on with that is that Sanford Moeller actually studied at that time the drummers of the American Civil War, who by that stage were quite aged but could still play quite powerfully. One of the things I tend to like to parody. Whip, right, left, right, left. That's how you whip. Vip. Okay. All right, there you go. I better get a wriggle on, hadn't I? Oh, I'm already there. Hey. So what happens? There's your NAD and 26 standard rudiments. And then in the 1980s, with the convener of it, Jay Wanamaker, who I mentioned before, came up with another 14 and added to them. And then you have the 40 pass rudiments, you see. And that's what happens. It keeps on going. Go and get them. They're there. Go to, just type it in. You'll get the chart. Print it out. Play them. There you go. It's all in the doing. Do it with the metronome. And the idea of them, they're designed, these rudiments are designed for 120. And like I said before, there's an interpretation, because what happens is the aforementioned, when I got told off, that's how you practice a 9-stroke roll. But that's the outcome. You want to have them there. If it's a quieter thing, you close them. So you got open and closed, all this sort of business. Got the picture? Get it? Got it? Good. Now, getting a little bit contemporary now, some of the things you can do is split your rudiments. Sometimes what happens is that you can have a very tricky passage, and then you realize, oh, is that all it is? So if you take something like a flam tap, you see, all you're doing is flamming a double stroke roll. You have right, left, right, left, and then you flam the start. And like I said, mnemonics, flam, tap. Flam, tap. They're not going to lie to you. But when you split them, there you go, you can do it. That's more like drumline stuff with your with the American drumline business. Oh, they're great. Go and have a listen to them. I do little things like a duet for one is my loose term for it. It's a bit of a Terry Bozzio thing. He did a duet for one it's a different concept in the sense that he was playing a jazz piece, but he was playing his own bass lines on his humongous kit, that kind of thing. And but a duet for one for me is a little bit like what I've just said. You can split the rudiments. So, like if we were thinking of it, here's a single stroke roll, very straightforward. Roll out the barrel, let's have a barrel of fun. Double. twist there. Paradiddle. I start doing Immigrant Song in that way, and it morphs into Get Smart. Very da 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 da. Someone do a mashup of that. Do Immigrant Song, and then have the Get Smart thing come over the top. Anyway, I digress. What happens is you've got these things, and I've got. Oh, Mr. Metro Gnome. There you go. So that's that. I can split them. That's what I... And you notice that when I do other things on Doris here, I really take that on board. There's a lot of splitting of rudiments. However, today is rudimental because of the day that it is. And what it is as well is that when I go off and do other things, like I've been using the triggers for close to a dozen years now, so I can get the harmonic side. I can talk about scales and all sorts of stuff. But to a certain degree here, I'm trying to get the sounds of kind of like a marching band with the hi-hat splashing, all sorts of different things. And when you're talking about drum lines in America, they go full tilt. They've got the full wraparound little toms. They use the mallet side for that. So on it goes. And you've got your snare drummers, and then you've got your bass drummers that will have 3 basses, large, medium, small. So a few here. Ooh. Ooh. Close those rolls. I suppose that's called close those rolls, Chris. Drummer. You wouldn't get your name. Only in the bar after. Hey, Chrissy boy. But when you're on, drummer! There you go. I'll wrap the show up. I've gone over quite a lot. And because I do love it so, and there's a lot of history to it, I think I've covered everything. One of the things I didn't do is that when you are getting into, like interpreting and splitting rudiments and things, when you take something like a 4-stroke rough, you can start to put them onto different places. Of course, you can split them, of course, but one of the big ones is when you've got a double kick. You see? Four-stroke rough. What happens sometimes with that little fella there, it's right, left, right, snare, as far as feet. But it gives you a little breathing space when you want to move between toms. So I'm not doing I'm adapting the rudiment to suit my needs for different things. So you can have, you can move like, so you get, And when you get the 3 on the foot, would be the 3 grace notes, if you want to think of it like that. It gives you that split second to move to a different drum, right? You see, you get things like that. I'm going to head off now. That is my show. I will always do a show on this subject on or about Remembrance Day. It's an incredibly important day for the world, and especially the world now. And but it gets a little bit up close and personal when I start to think about dear old Dad and what happened to him in World War II. I was still with the Essendon band in '92 when we did the Anzac Day, first one for the Vietnam vets. They were allowed in, and even just a few weeks ago with the floods in Maribyrnong, which I did a show about, and one of Dad's regular watering holes was the Angler's Tavern, because he just used to live up the road after he retired. I used to pick him up and go there for a counter lunch. But one of my little brass band stories is Remembrance Day at the Moonee Ponds RSL, which is very close to that. So I was really thinking about them a few weeks ago. And that's my story about, we're just playing hymns today, Chris, you can just press roll. And my usual joke, as if it was easy! Just trying to hold a press roll for like 4 minutes for the length of a hymn. And standing up, and like I said just a few weeks ago, it was only a couple of weeks ago, same story. The snare drum seemed to double in weight after, half an hour of that. And that, my friends, is what it is.
Quick! March!
I'll have this up tomorrow. And my name's Chris Quinlan. Melbourne Musos Facebook Live. It'll be up on Beloved Channel 31 week after next, on One Ahead. There you go. Oh, you gotta love it. Oof. There we are. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.